Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Hello, everybody. And, whoops, let me make sure I've got this thing turned off. Great. Welcome. Happy Saturday. And I hope you have had a great week and are having a great weekend. As always, feel free to drop something in the chats, either a comment or a question or whatever it may be. And yeah, my name is Nathan Goheen, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about a quote that's been on my mind this week. But before I get to the quote, I also wanted to mention that this week, Ash Wednesday happened. And for those who don't celebrate religion, whether you celebrate religion or not, there are undeniable aspects of religion that encourage us to improve our individual selves. And so, like I said, this past Wednesday was Ash Wednesday, which for Christians signals the beginning of a time called Lent. And this is the time where Jesus went into the desert to pray, to fast, to meditate, all while he was being tempted, to prepare him for the ministry that he was to do. And so Christians recognize this time, 40 days before Easter. And we recognize this time by fasting, and not only limiting our food, but also we're encouraged to give up things that we enjoy, right? And this has practical benefits as well. Like I said earlier, whether or not you practice or not, there are practical benefits to it. I hardly ever drink soda because I would give up soda for Lent when I was younger. And now I hardly ever drink it. And I think it's probably because of that. And it also gives us just a chance to reevaluate any behaviors that we want to get rid of or that we want to adjust. It's just a good time to self-reflect and reevaluate. And I was like, I wonder if there's some musical fasts that we could take, right? Like, I don't know, maybe not playing a certain rhythm or maybe not playing a certain note, whatever it may be, but just using very specific tools and limiting yourself, I guess. It's kind of like a cool thought experiment. How can you fast musically, right? It doesn't really matter what the limitation may be. Just think about it and try to purposefully leave it out and why you're doing that. You know, maybe you've got, like I've been doing a lot of computer music lately, and I've been using a lot of software. And if I maybe get rid of one of the software programs I'm really comfortable with using, maybe that could lead me to a new exploration. The last thing I want to say about religion is, I think it's important. I think one of the things that's really great is that Christianity, Judaism, they recognize a day of rest in the week. And I think that's important because it gives us perspective and it allows us to realize that there's more to the world than just my world or your world. It's a big world. And removing ourselves from it kind of puts things in perspective for us. So I hope that was cool. The quote that caught my attention this week was by it was by the same man who I quoted last week, Philip Guston. I started researching him a little bit. He was an artist. He's a painter in the 20th century, and he kind of had an interesting trajectory. He was a very successful abstract expressionist, which was a style in the United States, like in the 50s and 60s, like Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock and this man were friends. And then Philip Guston moved over into, I think it's called neo expressionism. Maybe it kind of looks like cartoons, honestly, which at the time that he was doing this, like the 70s, 60s and 70s, I think, it's kind of like, whoa, that's pretty, shows a lot of foresight that he did that. He got completely obliterated by the press for it. They did not like it. But regardless, he created very interesting work in both styles. Anyways, so Philip Guston had this to say when he went away from abstract painting. He said, there is something ridiculous and miserly in the myth that we inherit from abstract art. That painting is autonomous. Pure and for itself. Therefore, we habitually analyze its ingredients and define its limits. But painting is impure. We are image makers and image-ridden. And I'm not sure that I totally agree with him on this, but I do like the idea that we put form, and then we put meaning, and then we put limits, and then we analyze ingredients in what we experience. Even if we don't understand it, we just naturally want to do that. Right? And we come to these limits and these ingredients from our personal experiences, right? So like sticking with the visual arts example, maybe a certain shape makes you think of a certain image, or maybe a color does that, right? Maybe red makes you think of cherries, or maybe you think of cherries as being round. But what if cherries were blue? Or what if instead of round cherries, we had square cherries? And so I was like, okay, so how can we apply this to music? Well, simple, really. Take a major chord. Hoo, 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 hoo. Add another note to it in the bass. Hoo, 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 hoo. Ah. Hoo, 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 hoo. Hoo, 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 hoo. Hoo, 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 hoo. Add another note to the bass and it becomes minor. Right? So let's change that. Hoo, 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 hoo. Let's change that major sound to a minor sound just by adding hoo, 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 hoo. Right? Flip something. Just one single note. And everything changes. Sorry about my singing. I haven't been practicing my singing lately, so sorry that you had to hear that. But it just goes to show that a simple switch can change so much. I was also thinking about like drums, right? Like in a lot of music, there's a bass drum hit on 1 and 3, right? What if you put that bass drum hit on 2 and 4? Jamaicans did that, and they kind of created a whole style of music, or it's a part of a style of music, right? Like reggae, the bass drum is sometimes put on the offbeats, right? And it totally changes how we perceive music. Or another example with the drums is the hi-hats, right? Hi-hats are the and they kind of subdivide time, right? They subdivide the rhythm, they subdivide the beat. What if we get rid of the hi-hats and we expand time instead of subdividing it and making it like very compartmentalized? What if we get rid of the hi-hats? Expand time. And by doing these different thought experiments, we're trying to intellectually discover emotional responses. Because that's what it's about, right? Is getting an emotional response. So when we when we know how to get that response, then we can add it to our arsenal, right? Like how when things get dramatic in a movie back, you would hear strings, like you would hear violins and cellos, right? That was like the cue for drama. Or like rock bands that play like very specific chord progressions, and you're like, oh, this is an anthem. It's like there are specific chords that make you say this is an anthem. and having that knowledge to elicit that emotional response is powerful. So the more knowledge you can kind of unlock by flipping things around and subverting them and kind of contorting them and twisting them around, the more you're going to have in your arsenal. And to like form little plans and experiments, it may seem like the antithesis of creativity, but this shift in thinking that occurs forces us into creative thinking, right? And we need to allow these ideas and these experiments to live and grow and to take whatever form they may take. Don't try to shut it down. Just let it be what it is, and then be like, you know what? I think I can actually use that. It's almost like a new ingredient that we discover. And we can then add that new ingredient maybe into a dish that we didn't associate it with. For some reason, I eat a lot of oatmeal. For some reason, I was thinking of adding spice to it, like spicy oatmeal, right? Interesting idea. So I think that's about all that I had to say about that. I hope that was cool. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I put my Venmo in the description, as well as links to my latest full moon piece. And if anybody wants to do some lessons, contact me. I offer 100% money back guarantee. If you need help mixing up some music, if you need some bass lessons, need to learn how to tune a guitar string, want to talk about major chords, whatever it may be, hit me up, and I will see you next Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Have a great week, and be nice to each other. Be peaceful to each other.